Hello, my name is Katie Sarma. I am a journalist at Inside Climate News, and I'm here today with Gert-Peter Bruch. He is a director, journalist, photographer, and author. He's also the founder of Planet Amazon, an organization dedicated to supporting indigenous peoples and their work to protect the Amazon rainforest. Gert has worked closely with renowned Chief Raioni Mekaturi of the Kayapo people to raise awareness about the need to preserve the rainforest. His organization is part of the Alliance of Mother Nature's Guardians, a movement that aims to promote peace, unite indigenous peoples, and protect future generations and all living beings. Gert, welcome. It's lovely to get to talk with you.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
Sure. And I thought, we could start first. You're working on a project right now with Chief Raioni, and please tell us about what that is.
Yeah, the project comes from, a reality that we are facing today. I'm being involving in trying to warn the people in Europe about the destruction of the Amazon. And we know that it's a very dangerous time for Brazil. And you know that Brazil has the biggest part of the Amazon because it's election time this year. And we are very concerned that Bolsonaro could be re-elected because this president has caused a lot of damages. I'm not informing the people about that. People know globally. So we are in touch. Chief Raioni was affected by COVID-19, so he almost died. We helped his people to protect themselves from COVID, so we were connected all this time. And then he lost his wife, and he was mourning, and we thought he would never come back. But last year I talked to him and I said, Chief, this fight for your territories, that is an unfinished business, is so important for the world. Maybe we should try and inform again. What do you think? And he said he didn't believe that it would work. So I said we're doing a program. So we did a program on Earthfix. And only about that, indigenous territories, why they are important for the world, why should we support the demarcation of indigenous territories that should have been done some 25 years ago. Yeah. So because it was like, nobody was remembering that it's the most important thing. So we did that program, and I think that Chief Raioni became animated again. He wanted to fight again. So recently, I visited him with Princess Esmeralda from Belgium, which is a very important ally. She's a woman that is supporting indigenous people for many years, and her father, King Leopold III from Belgium, was one of the first European to come to these territories that at the time in 1964, can you imagine? Yeah. It was the very first protected area, including indigenous people in Brazil. Okay. So I organized a first trip there, and we met again with Chief Raioni, and it was very emotional. And the first thing that Chief Raioni told me is that I have to meet with the French president. Yeah. He contacted me, so I said, okay, so what do you want to do? And then we talked about, the timing, the end of September, early October, a perfect timing for joining forces so that we can have one voice, one strong message, so that the world can understand that these elections in Brazil are very crucial. Yeah. They are crucial. It's, I don't know, it's maybe one of the most important elections that ever happened if we consider climate change issues are very important. If we consider biodiversity issues as very important.
Yes, yeah. So, I mean, I have this stat from a story that one of my colleagues wrote. The Amazon soils and vegetation store between 150 billion to 200 billion tons of carbon. That's 5 times the world's annual greenhouse gas emission, and that helps to stabilize the atmosphere and provide a counterweight to global warming. If the planet loses the Amazon, it'll be almost impossible to maintain that balance. So to your point about this election, the Brazilian presidential election being so important. So I know that you have a history with Chief Raoni and working in the Amazon. And when and how did you first come to work? I mean, you're based in France. Tell us about how that played out.
Yeah. Sometimes when I think about it, I'm going to tell the story, but I think that that was a strong call. I was called say, come on, you know. So it all started when I was 14, in fact. Yeah. I was just an ordinary French boy, listening to music, reading books, etc. Yeah. But I was really attracted by indigenous people, Native American. Suddenly, my mother took me to the Sahara Desert to introduce me to my grandfather. And I realized that my grandfather was an indigenous man, that he was still living in connection with nature. He had a tradition, and it was a shock, a complete shock. And I stayed 2 months with my grandfather, and he taught me a lot. And the life of the village, another rhythm, another way of connecting to nature. That was my instruction, my teaching. So some years after that, when I met with Sting, I wanted to meet Sting, I was 17 and I say, I'm going to meet Sting. Yeah. And I did. Yeah. It was very nice, and I spent maybe 15 minutes with him, but I told him I wanted to be involved in helping spreading some of his messages, and particularly the one connected to the Amazon. He had just started being involved in that. So when came the time when he started touring with Chief Raoni, which by chance they choose France to start the tour. Yeah. So I was there, and I just came, and I did some research. I presented that to Sting. He was kind enough to support me and say, that's great, the work you're doing. And then I wanted to talk with Chief Raoni, because in my researches, and there was no internet at the time, so I had to go to maybe 20 different libraries and study very seriously.
Yeah. Wait, so Orion, about what year is this?
Sorry? Oh, it was 1989.
Okay.
So that was extraordinary. I was entering a new world, and wow, that was so shocking at the time. What the indigenous people had been through, and what they were, sorry, finding my words. They had all the threats that they were confronted to at the time in 1989. Yeah. I discovered that at that moment, and I say, but we are talking about our common future. And my indigenous blood made me understand that I want to connect with these people. Yeah. This is a resistance, a very important resistance movement. Mm-hmm. So I have to be part of it. So I found a way to talk to Chief Raoni, and he was very impressive as a man and as a chief. Yeah. And I remember being in the lobby of an hotel, and Sting was over there, and Chief Raoni was not that far, but I couldn't find a way to talk to him. And I had a book that I wanted to give as a present. And I knew that in his book there was some very old picture. And at the point, Chief Raoni, began to watch me, and he said like that, just with his eyes. And so I came, and I talked to him, and it was a start. Yeah. He said, "Come on, be with me." It was subtle, but it started like that.
A connection.
Yeah, the connection, a very strong connection. I would have never imagined that I would be here some 30 years after that, and he would be still alive, and then we could, fight together.
Yeah.
But I wanted to do my small part at the time, and I did.
Yeah, yeah. And so, how, over the years, this has been a continuing work for you, how has that evolved over time? In your bio, we have director, journalist, photographer, author. Have you focused all of those things on this work?
Honestly, I knew nothing of the reality of all that. It took me maybe 20 years to understand the complexity of all that. Yeah. So at the time, I was just here with my heart, and I wanted to help, and I was just helping spreading the Chief Raoni's message, and it was okay for a time. But at a certain point, I began to understand the hypocrisy of all that, because, the Chief Raoni was traveling the world, and with the help of Sting, he got to open the door of the highest authority you could imagine at the time. Yeah. Started with the French president, and they were all saying, "Oh, we're going to help. Yeah, it's very important." But at the same time, they didn't do nothing. All these presidents to talk to the companies, saying that you have to care about our common future. Yeah. So meaning that, for instance, when I understood that a lot of French companies were participating to the deforestation or to the destruction of indigenous territories, I began to understand that I have to do my own part as a French citizen. Yeah. And so this is the way that my involvement evolved. At the beginning, I was just like, helping spreading the indigenous voices, Chief Raoni's voice. And after that, I said, no, we have to talk together. And because we are from, each side of the ocean, but we know that it's all connected, and we are being abused also. We are, as citizens, explaining why I'm saying that is that, for instance, when I'm buying some cookies that are made with palm oil, I never, gave my authorization to the firms that are doing that to destroy the forests in Asia or Africa. Yeah. And we being a complice, what do you say? Complice?
A complicit.
A complete?
Complicit.
Complices, yeah.
Complicit, yep, that's right.
Yeah, we are becoming complicit of all that policies we call business. Yeah. And the business has more rights than the life today, nowadays. Yeah. So understanding that and seeing the hypocrisy of all that, we began to think about a new project with Chief Raoni. Yeah. This project became the Alliance of Mother Nature's Guardians.
Yeah, and so please say more about that, the Alliance of Mother Nature's Guardians. I gave a brief note about it in the introduction that it's a movement to promote peace, unite Indigenous peoples, and protect future generations and living beings. But what does that mean? Sort of how did this manifest and come together, and what has come out of it?
It comes from at Rio Plus 20. It happened in 2012. Mm-hmm. It was 20 years after Rio, the Rio Summit, the 92 Rio Summit, where there was great hope that this time the countries would work together and protect us
Yeah.
and the future generations.
And so the 1992, the Rio Summit was the birth of the UNFCCC process, which led to, climate change convention and also on biodiversity. So just a marker of
a key moment for.
Yeah.
It was supposedly a key moment for humanity.
Yeah.
And we were there 20 years later, and Chief Raoni was not happy at all.
Yeah.
So he came to the summit saying that we have not been heard. We have not been heard. And even he talked at the time, Lula was still president, or maybe I'm wrong. No. He was not president, but the Belo Monte Dam, a huge dam in the middle of the Amazon, had been authorized by Lula. And then Dilma was constructing that and promoting that like a beautiful thing, and that would bring energy for whole population in Brazil. And that was wrong. That was, and then we knew at the time that it was all about corruption. It was all about, a Trojan horse for to invade the Amazon and do some mining and do a lot of things. We knew that. So it was a disastrous message that was sent at the time. And mostly I knew and I heard at the time that many French companies and European companies were involved. Yeah. So it was exactly the contrary that they were doing exactly the contrary that should have been done at the moment. So that was a kind of tipping point for us, saying that no, it's not good at all. Yeah. The direction that is being taken.
Yeah, yeah.
So I didn't respond exactly to the question.
No, that's perfect, and that's sort of the impetus that created the alliance.
Yeah, because and I remember a moment at Rio +20 where Chief Raoni was at the Indigenous Peoples Summit, and of course it was 20 kilometers away from the conference with the official person. Yeah. So he was asking for support for all the indigenous people of the world to unite and create a common document to speak in one voice. That was the first time he really spoke about that concretely again, because I know that he had this project in the 80s or something, but he was starting to talk about this again. Yeah. Because I think that he was simply tired of traveling and doing all these meetings and seeing that it was not advancing enough. Of course, he succeeded in having a huge territory demarcated, but it was just a small part of the Amazon. Yeah. So all the rest was being attacked, and many indigenous territories were under attack as well. Yeah. So I thought it was a beautiful idea, and in 2013 in his village, we began to talk about this again. And so I thought I should be involved in that, helping constructing a new movement. Yeah. And that became the Alliance of Mother Nature's Guardians. That was launched in 2015 at COP21.
And there was a meeting it happened in Brazil, of indigenous peoples who came together.
Yeah. At first, this movement is a long story, but like I said, it comes from a dream from Chief Raoni. Then in 2015, he introduced me to the most important traditional leaders from the Amazon, from the Brazilian Amazon. Yeah. And he allowed me to present the idea. So it was a huge honor. And there was, for instance, Davi Yanomami from the Yanomami people, Davi Kopenawa, which is a well-known indigenous chief. There was Aritana from the Yawalapiti people. He died recently. He was very important too. So they were all immediately, they wanted to jump in. Yeah. They said, that's great. So that was the first thing they did, is a common agreement, authorizing me to call indigenous people all around the world.
Yeah.
So I did it for COP21. So we had this little meeting, 60 people, but there already were people from Australia, Africa, and Mindai Bastida from Mexico. That's the first time we met with him. He was there. So after that, immediately this movement was recognized by the French president. So we delivered the first document and to the UN General Secretary, Ban Ki-moon. So that was the start. So then after that, Chief Raoni called for a bigger summit in Brazil, and we did that meeting in 2017. And that meeting was only financed by a crowdfunding by the general public. So that was fantastic.
And correct me if I'm wrong, but that was that assembly of leaders called for an ecocide crime at that point.
Yeah. Also, the very first text we included that demand, recognizing eco crimes and recognizing ecocide as a crime. In the what do you call that in English? Le Rome Statute. Recognizing the ecocide crime in the Rome Statute. So that was, obviously we were already connected from the beginning. I knew Polly Higgins' work, and when some youngster started this European initiative to do a petition to have the ecocide as a crime recognized in the European Parliament, we were already in the network and we were supporting that. And so I got Chief Raoni involved at the very beginning of that.
So I'd love to ask, when you think about this concept of ecocide and then your work in the Brazilian Amazon, what do you see happening there that you think ecocide? Is it accumulation of different acts and decisions and things happening? Is there, one major thing that stands out? I mean, just kind of put into sort of reality what this concept means to you.
Well, it's very simple. If you travel over there and you see the beauty of the forest and the magic of the forest, the sacredness of the forest, and suddenly you see vast areas of soy fields, it means a lot to your heart. You immediately understand that it's eco-crime, it's ecocide, because you know that at this very place, just some years before, there were animals, forest, millions of species. They were there. Just the spirits of these animals and plants, you can feel them. So you understand the concept of ecocide is very clear, very very simple. You don't need to stay there. It's very. So I would recommend anyone to go to the Amazon, even for a few days, to understand the reality of all that, of ecocide.
What for you? How many? I mean, you've been doing this for decades, and sometimes I assume it might feel that things are moving too slow. There's not enough political action. Within that realm, what has been most frustrating for you throughout it all? Is there something that stands out?
Yeah. The most frustrating for me is that I was hoping at the point that the internet would make the eyes of the world open about all these issues. But it seems that it's the contrary that's happening. Most of the people, they don't want to know. It's and it's very frustrating. We have access to a lot of information. We didn't have access to that information when I was 18 years old. So I learned a lot with the internet. But the cell phones and the social media and the media, the general media, I don't know, they don't help spreading the messages. Let's talk about Facebook, for instance. At a point, some years ago, they were pushing the NGO, the voices of the NGO.
Yeah.
But there was a shift some 4 years ago, and now they are blocking access to the right information. And it's terrible.
Yeah.
Because we know that for the young people, social media is the place for them to hear about what's happening in this part of the world. So it's very frustrating to know that there's so much information accessible, but that there is I would say, a huge lobby for this information not to be heard or seen.
Yeah.
So it has it has become, or it has became, sorry.
Become, yeah.
It has become even more complicated today to know what's happening. And it's confusing because there are information, fake news.
Yeah.
It's not the type of fake news that Trump was talking about, but there are a lot of fake news. For instance, For instance, Bolsonaro in Brazil is spreading a lot of fake news about the Amazon. For instance, he would say that Planet Amazon, like my little French NGO, want to invade the Amazon to, I don't know, to take some gold. I'm not interested by gold, but he's spreading this kind of messages, and it works. And he has access to the general media. He is on the social media. He is on WhatsApp. It has become very difficult for indigenous people to be heard. So that's why Chief Raoni wants to come one more time. He's 92 years old, but he's being heard a little, not at the point that the people, the general audience, know him very well. I'm surprised because a lot of people know his face, but don't even know his name. Think about it. He's been traveling for 30 years. He's been maybe 10 times in Europe, and a lot of people don't even know his name. No.
And then, I mean, beyond his name, his message, and I understand that it's been hard. I mean, your work is in part sort of elevating his voice, and you've had trouble sort of getting that message out. And can you speak to the challenges around that? Why that has been a problem?
Well, Chief Raoni didn't need me to spread his original message about, demarcating, tracing borders around all indigenous territories, and he fought very hard for that, and he had a lot of success in the 80s because with the help of Sting, he succeeded in having a huge territory demarcated.
And correct me if I'm wrong, I mean, that was also, they changed the Constitution to require the demarcation, which is the marking off of indigenous lands and titling it to them so they have ownership and say, and Bolsonaro has put that process on hold now, right?
Yeah, it's more or less that, the Constitution, the 1988 Constitution have an article about that fundamental right of of all the indigenous people to have their land protected, demarcated, and it is even written in the Constitution that this process should be done within 5 years. So it should have been over and done in 1993. So about Bolsonaro. Of course, he is to blame because he said this thing that if I'm elected, I will not give one more centimeter of territory to the indigenous. It's not give; it's their territories. It's just recognizing. But the way that he says that talks to many people in Brazil. So he was elected, and he blocked every process. But that I must say that, let's be honest, it started with Lula, second mandate.
Yeah.
The first mandate of Lula was good. He protected many indigenous territories, and then for his second mandate, he did some political alliances that restrain the indigenous territories to be protected.
Yeah.
And as for Dilma Rousseff, that was terrible.
Yeah.
And that was during the second mandate of Lula that the Belo Monte Dam was agreed.
Yeah.
And that was terrible.
We should say Lulu Ignacio da Silva, full name, former president of Brazil, as was Dilma Rousseff.
Yeah. You want me to say that, or?
Oh, I just wanted to clarify, in case people didn't know.
Lula Ignacio da Silva, which is a former Brazilian president. He
running
did two mandate, and is running again. And we met with him recently, just a few days ago.
So, is his position different on indigenous issues now?
Of course. Of course, it's different than Bolsonaro, and I really appreciate that he made some commitments, and very strong ones. Yeah. He wants to create an indigenous ministry involving indigenous people. Yeah. So, for what I have understood, meaning that this ministry would include indigenous people. It's not only for them, but with them, working with them. So that's very important. He wants to strengthen the FUNAI, the National Foundation for Indigenous People. Yeah. And he wants to, this is what he said, he told us that he knows that Bolsonaro has destroyed most of the institutions that were protecting indigenous territories and indigenous rights. So he wants to recreate them because they have been almost destroyed. And he received a letter, some demands by Chief Raoni. So that was delivered by Princess Esmeralda. And the most important demand was that Chief Raoni was asking Lula to demarcate, to release a decree on the first day of office if he's re-elected. Yeah. Where he would confirm that his priority would be to demarcate all indigenous territories. Yeah, yeah. And Lula said he wants to do that. Yeah. But he also says that Belo Monte is a very beautiful thing. Yeah, yeah. And so that means that he may be thinking about doing some more dams in the middle of the Amazon, and that's very wrong. Yeah,
yeah. Interesting. Well, he's on record, and it'll be interesting to see what happens.
Of course.
So we had been talking a little bit before about, decisions made, by politicians in Brazil or companies have effects inside indigenous territories, and we were talking about even technology, right, has played a role that you've seen change things. And could you share a little bit about what you've seen and experienced in that respect?
I've seen, I have experienced how a tiny change in the community can have a huge negative influence on the indigenous people's way of life. Yeah. For instance, at a point, the Brazilian government decided to give, I'm going to need your help with that, because how do you call, I don't know if it does exist in the US, but there are some countries where the poorest people receive like a minimum.
Yeah, like a subsidy.
Subsidy, yes.
Yeah.
So they decided to give like a subsidy to the indigenous people that didn't need that at the point. So suddenly, everyone inside the villages knew about that, so they wanted to experiment that. So it was absurd because the money that was given was, I don't know, almost nothing. But they wanted, so to take that money, they had to get out the villages and pay a vast amount of money to get out of the villages, because you have to take boats, and you have then to take a car, and just to have this card and the bank machine, and have the, and suddenly they could buy some stuff, you know, but they didn't know what to buy. So they were bringing that inside the village. And I remember one day I arrived at Chief Raoni's village, and there was a sound system. Boom, 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 boom. I was like, my God, what's happening here? Yeah. And I talked to the chief and said, no, that's someone stupid that brought that to the village. And they didn't know how to face it. Just an example. Yeah, yeah. But you know, cell phones, they are a problem. At the same time, it can be very interesting, because some indigenous youngsters can connect to each other, and other tribes. They can get to know each other. But at the same time, they are like all young people. They become addicted to that. Yeah. So what does it mean? They don't listen to the story by the elders. They don't do the hard crafts. They are losing culture. Yeah. So that's a concern. That pressure from our world has already been a concern since the first contact of any indigenous people. Yeah. But nowadays it's even stronger with that kind of technology.
Yeah. Earlier today, Mindahi Bastida was talking about loss of biocultural the loss of the biocultural aspect of indigenous life from sort of weaponization or destruction of the environment. So it sounds like that. I mean that is something possibly similar that's playing out.
I think it's very, very, very difficult to be young and indigenous nowadays, because I don't know, you want to be like anyone, you want to have a cell phone, you want to have access to, I don't know, to the rest of the world, but at the same time you represent, and it's very heavy on your shoulder. You understand that you're part of a culture, but it's very difficult for them to be proud of that. So what we're trying to do is, within the Alliance of Nature's Guardians, coming back to that, is that we want to connect the youngster of any indigenous people to other culture, so that they can be proud, and they want to share that culture, and they want to share the stories, and they can travel with a strong goal and being proud of that. Being proud is, I think, is maybe the solution, but it's very hard, and I know that it's a run after time.
So people who are watching this, who are wondering how they can find your work and also learn more about the upcoming project with Chief Raoni, what do they need to know?
Yeah, we have to be stronger on the web, so we need like volunteers to help us, do the social media stuff, have a internal website updated very often, which is not the case at the moment. But we have the website, it's allianceofguardians.org for the Alliance. And as Planet Amazon, we are on social media, but mostly in French. We want to take opportunity of this forthcoming tour to spread the message worldwide, but it's difficult. It's always difficult because, like I said before, we really need the people to be involved in that movement, not just counting on us. We're doing our part, but I think it's open to anyone. So if anyone wants to help doing some artwork, doing some, spreading the message on internet, they are welcome, because it's really needed. Our movement is going to grow. but it has to grow faster than what we can do on our own. We've been traveling the world with Mindai Bastida, for instance, and we talked about the alliance. We have a good network. That's the way we are connected with Stop Ecocide movement, for instance, and it's a beautiful partnership, and we are very, very happy that it's all connected and all linked, but we need more people involved, a lot more. And what we want to achieve, like I said, is having the indigenous people connected to the youth movement, and so that we can all work and fight together.
Yeah, yeah. And just why is it important to connect the youth movement and elders in the indigenous community? Why is that important to sort of to connect them?
It's really important because the young people have to understand that these indigenous people, and they understand that, are fighting for them.
Yeah.
And so it's the same message. You know, I think that the Greta phenomenon is amazing because it's exactly what I expected for me as someone that is an activist for more than 30 years. That someone, someday, a young person would come and talk, you know, and fight. You know, it's very difficult for, like I said, I told to you, Chief Raoni has an amazing, you know, figure. He has a plate lip, so the photographer like his face. Yeah. But what about the message? We've been trying to spread the message for more than 30 years. Yeah. And it's still confused. It's still confused. We've been saying the same thing again and again and again. Yeah. And once more, we're going to talk about this importance of demarcate all indigenous territories. But that was already the same message 30 years ago. Yeah. So I know that there's a problem with the most of the world about the indigenous peoples. I think that most of the person are afraid. Yeah. Because it's like a reflection of where we come from. Mm-hmm. I don't know, there's something like that, you know. I think that people don't understand that reconnecting with nature is not something frightening at all. At the contrary, it's something that nourish you from the inside, nourish your heart, nourish your spirit, and you understand about, you know, what life is, the meaning of life, the meaning of loving one another. That's why we say that this movement is a movement for peace, because we really believe that destroying indigenous territories, destroying Mother Earth, destroying the forest will cause war, of course, and even the Pentagon is saying that. The Pentagon has released a report saying that if we destroy nature, it will cause very important conflicts, nuclear conflicts someday. Yeah. It's a high risk.
Yeah, that's interesting. I mean, your work is, continues on, and you know, please keep us updated on what you do, and I just thank you so much for your time. Did I not ask anything that you want to talk about?
Yeah, I want to talk about something because you know, I am an activist, but at the same time, I'm also a filmmaker. Yeah. And but it's difficult to be to do the two things at the same time. Yeah. But you know, having the privilege of accompanying Chief Raoni, organizing for him all this tour that we did together, traveling in many countries. I had my camera very, you know, near, and I tried to film bits of that, and finally I made a movie, and this movie is called Terra Libre, and the English version is narrated by Paul Watson, Captain Paul Watson from Sea Shepherd, because I wanted to make the connection between the sea and the forest, the blue lungs of the planet and the green lungs of the planet. So this film has to be seen in America and in the English-speaking world. So I would like, I would like to ask if some people are interested by my work, to get in touch with you and with your media, so that we can show this film. And this film tells the story of Chief Raoni, but from my point of view, the point of view of a young French guy that got involved in the strange mystery way of life. I got involved in that, and I learned a lot working alongside Chief Raoni. I understand now. I understood the message of the indigenous people, and it's a very simple and very strong message that we have to make peace with Mother Earth and with all people of the planet. Otherwise, we will disappear.
Is the film? How can we see the film? Is it out completely?
I don't have a distribution in the States for the moment.
Okay.
So I'm doing a call for that, but it's of course it's a auto-produced film, but I think it's a very important work because it shows 30 years of that fight for the Amazon and for the generations to come and for the Greta generation also.
Yeah. Terrific. Well, thank you, Gert. Anything else? I want to make sure that you have a chance.
Yeah, I want to call for anyone who's fighting to protect the planet and to protect some natural area close to them. I think that if you protect a river, you are a guardian of Mother Earth. If you protect a bit of forest in your region, you are a guardian for Mother Earth. So I would call all of them to join us for the next tour that we're going to do in Europe, help spread the message and join forces. We want to achieve that because maybe it's the last time that Chief Raoni will be traveling, and maybe it's the last time that we can really, make all this head of states, all this country realize that we, the people, we don't want to accept what's happening. We don't want to accept that our future is being destroyed. And they always say that it's for, the progress. It's for us, for us to have beautiful products. I don't want that, and I'm sure that many people don't want that for their children.
Yeah. Do you have dates for the tour?
Yeah, more or less. I know that we will be starting at the end of September. Okay. So I don't know the precise date, but until the middle of October.
Okay. So people should stay posted for information.
And thank you so much for inviting me and for taking the time to hear my story and the story of us reconnecting with indigenous people.
Yeah.
And please, I ask anyone to do a DNA test for them to understand that we have the same roots.
Yeah, indeed. Thank you, Gert. This is wonderful.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Yeah.